good evening, colleagues and partners. Welcome to the 18th session of the 2021 Cities on the Frontline Speaker Series, jointly organized by the Resilient Cities Network and the World Bank. This session is co-hosted by the Citi Foundation, and it focuses on the importance of SMEs for cities' economies and how they can contribute to a resilient economy recovery. My name is Uri Reich. I'm a senior urban specialist at the World Bank based in Singapore. And before I hand over the microphone to my co-host Lina to introduce our speakers, I just want to remind everyone on the intention and the ground rules for the conversation today. The purpose of these global webinars is to have an open and honest learning conversation between practitioners in cities and governments and partners supporting those entities. We ask that you do not attribute any comments made today or questions asked to the speakers unless the materials are made available after the call or you have the person's express permission to do so. We are thrilled at the response to the speaker series, and we have now over 200 people registered for this call globally. To facilitate this discussion, and as a matter of practicality, we ask that you use the Q&A function to pose your questions. Over to you, Lina.
Thank you, Yuri. Hi, everyone. My name is Lina Liako. I'm the Global Director for City Engagement and Knowledge for the Resilient Cities Network. And along with Yuri, I will be moderating this session. Our discussion today is focused on the role of small and medium-sized enterprises in building the resilience of our cities. SMEs are considered to be the backbone of our economies. At the same time, they have been disproportionately affected by the pandemic and the various confinement measures, suffering huge revenue losses and devastating effects on jobs and the local economies. A survey of the Resilient City Network last year confirmed that city leadership is focused on rebuilding and further strengthening the local economies as part of their recovery plans and journeys, putting SMEs and local businesses at the center of these efforts. In this session today, we will explore the role of SMEs within a resilient urban recovery and hear practical examples from our member cities from Malacca in Malaysia and Semarang in Indonesia, along with perspectives from experts and representatives of the financial sector. We have a great lineup today. We have with us Amit Dhawan. Amit is the Managing Director of the Emerging Corporates Client Segment for Citi Commercial Bank. He's based in Singapore. The Emerging Corporate segment comprises of more than 9,000 small and mid-sized corporate clients across 11 countries in Asia. Thank you, Amit, for joining. We have with us Dr. Jose Tibella. Jose is a research fellow with the Transform Project and the director of the Latin America Research Chapter of the University of Waterloo. His research focuses on business model innovations in the context of climate change and disaster risk. He's particularly interested in the way science can inform participatory processes for decision-making and co-production of knowledge to leverage business contributions to sustainable and resilient development. Welcome, Jose. Our next speaker is Zuhaila Ahmad Zubel. Zuhaila is the director of the Town Planning Department at the Malacca Historic City Council in Malaysia. She's been the director since 2020. In 2021, she was awarded her professional title as Registered Town Planner for her excellency and outstanding achievements. It's a pleasure to have you with us, Zuhaila. And finally, we have with us Dr. Artiningsih. Arti is a senior lecturer at the Department of Urban and Regional Planning at the University of Diponegoro in Indonesia. Arti has been engaged in Central Java local economic development since 2005. And she's currently doing the rapid assessment of Semarang's Batik Resilience and Recovery sector. So without further delay, I would like to ask Amit to share his remarks on the importance of supporting SMEs and the role of organizations such as the Citi Corporate Commercial Bank and Citi Foundation. Amit, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dina. Thank you so much for inviting me to this forum. I'll just take a few minutes to explain why Citi believes in the importance of SMEs and how Citi and Citi Foundation is working with this segment towards a resilient recovery. At Citi Commercial Bank, we refer to this segment of clients as emerging corporates. And this name, in our view, reflects the evolving nature of these businesses. But more importantly, it reflects our firm belief that these are the corporate champions of tomorrow, the corporates who will drive economic growth, create job opportunities, and this segment, therefore, is a segment which we as banks need to nurture. SMEs are already the backbone of economies around the world, and I need not emphasize that too much. In Asia, SMEs account for 97% of all enterprises, 69% of national labor force, and this is according to the Asia Small and Medium-Sized Enterprise Monitor published by the Asian Development Bank. And therefore, they are key to achieving inclusive growth as they create economic opportunities and jobs, which are especially vital for underserved communities and for vulnerable groups, including women, ethnic minorities, and poor populations. Having said that, SMEs are also the most susceptible to external shocks due to their small size and their limited access to resources, as they are predominantly dependent and reliant on bilateral bank funding, bank financing from people like us, and have very limited to no access to capital markets, which the large corporates enjoy. Now, COVID-19 has taken a particularly devastating toll on these enterprises. According to data from OECD, World Bank, and Facebook, approximately 30 to 45% of SMEs globally experienced prolonged month-long closures in 2020. Many that have continued operating saw a significant reduction in sales. And now, even as most SMEs are struggling to their feet and recovering from the impact of the pandemic, there are new headwinds in the form of supply chain bottlenecks, power shortages in certain countries, labor shortages, and all these factors are putting further pressure on SMEs' profitability by increasing their costs, extending their working capital cycles. And this is at a time when demand is soft to recovering, and therefore these SMEs are not necessarily in a position to pass on these increased costs to their buyers. Now at Citi, we've taken a few actions to help this segment, and we've been taking a few of these for the past several years. Responding first to the challenges that arose out of the COVID pandemic last year, Citi Commercial Bank promptly put in place relief programs to support our clients across different markets in Asia. And these programs complemented the multiple government initiatives introduced to assist SMEs. And the programs, just to illustrate, including deferring payments, extending payment dates, converting unutilized trade lines to revolving credit lines for a specific tenor, all of which provided our SME clients with financing flexibility and gave them some breathing room as they face the challenges of the pandemic. Over the last few years, we've also increasingly focused on helping SME clients with infrastructural and operational aspects of their business. And this is important. So again, as an example, in Singapore and Hong Kong, where real estate is expensive, we've been extending mortgage loans to finance owner-occupied office and commercial spaces by SMEs. We've also prioritized digitization and technology to help our clients operate efficiently and in a secure fashion. This has assumed actually an even greater importance during the pandemic, as companies needed tools to maintain seamless access to banking services while working remotely. So beyond offering a full suite of digital solutions, we've collaborated with ERP solution providers to provide SME clients access to cost-effective solutions to either give them or enhance their internal accounting systems, and to enable them to digitally connect to our banking systems through host-to-host connectivities or APIs, etc. So while SMEs are being supported locally through such event-driven relief programs and ongoing financing from banks like us, at a broader level, we recognize that a more sustainable and long-term solution is needed as cities navigate the economic impact of COVID-19 and pivot towards recovery. Citi and Citi Foundation, we believe in the power and potential of SMEs to bring new solutions that can help build resilience and drive economic recovery. And that is why Citi Foundation has partnered with Global Resilient Cities Network on Catalyzing City Resilience Solutions program. Through this program, we hope that SMEs will benefit from the skills provided, from participation, and subsequently delivering solutions that will meet the city's needs. The program will support municipal governments in engaging diverse stakeholders to work specifically with SMEs to address urban challenges unique to that city. and those that have been exacerbated by the pandemic. And by improving resilience in this municipal procurement process through engaging SMEs, it is our hope that program will generate the necessary economic benefits and drive recovery, including by creating jobs for the local communities. So to conclude, I would again just like to say that at Citi and Citi Foundation, we are extremely proud and extremely happy to support efforts that help communities become sustainable epicenters of equitable economic opportunity. And by breaking down silos and bringing stakeholders together, we are committed, along with all of you, to help develop and scale solutions for the challenging facing all of us in our communities today. Thank you.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you, Amit. It has been a pleasure and an honor to be working with the Citi Foundation on this program. So, Jose, the floor is yours. We're looking forward to hear the insights of your research work. Jose, I think we cannot hear you. You need to unmute.
My apologies. Got it. Sorry.
Great. Thank you.
Yes. Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the follow-up. So today I'm presenting a report, Sustainable Business Practices and Resilient Economies. This is the result of a rapid research effort that we undertook last year at the Project Transform at the University of Waterloo, which was to look at how some businesses that are illustrating highly sustainable practices or practices oriented towards sustainability actually could contribute to resilience building at the individual, organizational, and community scale. So Transform is a network of researchers in different hubs across the world. It's a 7-year project. It's looking at business models and sustainability. And particularly, we're starting with the first stage of mapping and identifying these activities and looking at exactly what is happening in the small and medium business sector, but also how can we build capacity and how can we finance and work on experimentation to accelerate innovation in this segment. Well, as I'm following up with the conversation around finance, it's also another part is the technical, and then the non-technical part, which is around how these businesses are starting to cooperate, engage with communities, and actually display innovation around the domains of sustainability and, of course, on building societal resilience and community resilience. I'm not going to delve too much into the importance and relevance of small medium enterprises, as Amit mentioned. But one interesting fact is that OECD classifies them as up to 250 employees. In Canada, we have them for statistics purposes up to 500 people. So when you're talking about that type of organization, they are considerable and important players in city sustainability, and also have an enormous amount of potential, not only to contribute to climate action, but also on sustainability in general, how they engage with local governments, how they work with others. And this is part of the interest in us focusing on this segment of organizations. So they make up 99% of businesses in Canada, as Amit had mentioned, in Indonesia, in Asia, 97%. And they are a great cog of the national and local economies. So this is some of the areas where we see a great opportunity, but also that we need to make more coherent, coordinated progress in trying to support SMEs, not only in terms of economic growth, but sustainable economic growth, and more importantly, to understand how they can build resilience to hopefully not many future shocks. although we predict them. So part of it is, as I said, a quick glance into where we are located. The efforts of each team in this organization, in these institutions, are part of doing the same: mapping case studies, developing an inventory, and then starting to test out new methodologies to work with the small and medium enterprise sector and see how adoption of sustainable practices actually can accelerate. We have a partnership with Arise Mexico and Arise Colombia, which is the private sector branch of the UN Nations Disaster and Risk Reduction Office. And we're working with them also to understand practices that are happening in the context of Latin American cities, where, as you might know, are characterized by partially informality, but also a particular urban context where you have different types of development patterns, which we are actually trying to understand the role that small, medium enterprises play and how we can help them, again, coordinate and adopt new innovation processes aligned to this area. So on to the report, which the guiding question is: how can sustainability-oriented practices of small and medium enterprises contribute to resilience? And we understand resilience not only about the ability to cope and respond with shock, but also cope and respond better with shock, which is what we have been trying to distinguish between what maybe more traditionally or bottom line based focuses of small medium enterprises versus those that have started to adopt and even display some of the sustainable development objectives as part of their efforts into building a business. In this case, and particularly in the mapping that we undertook, it wasn't necessarily those that were reporting as contributing to the development objectives, but throughout our review, we found that some of them are practices that touch on the many points of the development agenda, and also how this we're translating into resilience building. So I'm going to just briefly talk about collaboration and integrating interpersonal relationships in how they do business, a theme that we called strategic placemaking, their engagement with public space, building social connections through digital space, which is not about social media necessarily, but about learning platforms and things that are customized and emerging from local communities. Rapid business pivots, which I think everybody observed in the last year, of how some of the small and medium sector were able to rapidly adapt and move. Some others could not, but that's one of the areas we wanted to explore. Integrating unique skill sets as SMEs that are working beyond their traditional hierarchical structures or typical job descriptions and skill sets, but actually bring the creative and arts and digital sector into the way they think about how to do business. And lastly, this empowerment and ownership, which speaks more to the way that some of the businesses are organized and distribute ownership among them, like cooperative models, but also we're finding other types of examples. So I'm going to talk a little bit about collaboration, which is not only as a given effort, but also as a strategic priority that some of these organizations have been displaying, actively trying to seek new actors and new perspectives to work with them in the way they do business. And one of the things that we found is this idea of culture first in one of the organizations in the digital arts, particularly as they are finding new partnerships, the idea that they are not diluting their core purpose or core philosophy of how they work or as a business, but simply they are providing new areas of how they can shape their activities. And this has built social capital and given them their ability actually to be flexible and adaptive to shock. Another one is placemaking and strategic engagement. In particular, we found urban transition projects and SMEs that are working to construct public space and establish different ways of community engagement. For example, in New Zealand, gap filler, after the earthquakes in 2010, they used and they occupied unused urban space to develop urban gardens in partnership with other organizations and NGOs. And that actually established a longer term project in the city. And that became an urban transition effort, but also the reconstruction of public space that provided some sense of food security and other activities that engage the community. And also the micro manufacturing spaces and what we call share or maker spaces. The Fab Lab provided some examples as well of enterprises or entrepreneurial activities that are reusing and providing tools for innovators, for businesses, and for creative industries of all sorts to come together. And that conversion and that use actually provides social cohesion and an important step in towards resilience building. We have digital spaces as learning platforms, again, a more strategic way of using how you engage the community in highlighting examples of champions, the resources that are used, and how they, through the digital learning platforms, they build skills in the small business sectors and they become translators or accelerators for others to adopt new ways of engaging their clients, engaging other members of the community, and forming new alliances. The rapid business pivots, we know about the structure and emergence of opportunities, but also how they adapt and flexibly adopt these opportunities as we observe through shock, but also being responsive to rapid culture shifts within their own communities, and then developing foresight and long-term vision as how to use those opportunities and make them into a way that creates revenue, but also helps them sustain and maintain business in the long term. Unique skill sets, which I had spoken about briefly, which is more on the creative and artistic side on one hand, but also different types of expertise and scientific knowledge being brought into businesses that are working on maybe areas of manufacturing or other types of service industries, has provided the ability to develop new forms of engagement, green strategies, and so on and so forth. So looking at champions, and then finally empowerment as shared ownership models, which actually have demonstrated that they provided the opportunity for shared decision making, instead of losing jobs, maybe distributing the burden of shock, which is something that we found in the Technicians for Sustainability in Arizona. That's another example. I'm going to rapidly go through the last slide, which is the next stage of our project. We're looking more in depth about how they implement some of these practices and what the steps are being taken so that we can find a roadmap at an individual SME level to looking at how there's an ecosystem of actors providing support for them, but also the different activities and the result they born out of each step to get to a sustainable practice. So in reality, what we are looking now is more of an implementation effort. Policy recommendations, we support and suggest policies that promote employee-owned businessship, engaging clusters of organizations or SMEs that have shared problems or are part of supply chains to work on sustainability with them instead of individual efforts. We also have incentives and guidance for implementation. Accompaniment is quite important, not just providing the financial resources, but in reality, doing a process with them. Repurposing public space, stranded assets in cities that can be reconverted and giving us opportunities and incentives for SMEs to use and start new economic projects, but also around the sustainability and shared use of this space. Highlighting success stories through the learning platforms, through digital access, but also to awards and certificates, and providing these examples in the community, and upskilling, retraining existing workers on sustainability and alphabetization or literacy around sustainability and resilience, and then articulate this long-term vision of what the new normal can be. So developing foresight. Thank you so much. Apologies for a little bit of my time over with the technical issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. And these were like really interesting, both the recommendations and the overall insights. So thank you. Zuhaila, the floor is yours. We are really looking forward to hear about the work that you're doing in the Malacca Historic City Council, and especially the work around the touristic sector and the SMEs that are working around that.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good evening to fellow speakers, experts, colleagues, and all participants. Thank you to Resilience City Network and City Resilience Program, and proposed by Citi Foundation for organizing the City on the Frontline Speaker Series, and today is the 18th series. Alhamdulillah, praise be to Allah for this opportunity, and we are able to gather at this session. Malacca is one of the symbols of the glorious Malaysia history and its recognition as the World Heritage Site. The glance of Malacca, the land area is 270.39 kilometers square, accommodate 510 population with a growth rate 2.7% per year. Refer to the traffic impact study conducted in 2016, more than 10,000 cars enter the city daily for various purposes. As a support to the Sustainable Development Goals, Malacca City Council takes many actions and initiatives to drive Malacca City towards a sustainable and resilient city. In May 2016, FBNB Malacca City Council was selected to join the Global Resilient City Network, GRCN, formerly known as 100 Resilient City Network, funded by Rockefeller Foundation in New York, USA. RCN helped Malacca in managing challenge and vision to become more resilient on physical, social, and economic challenge that are growing part of the 21st century. On 26 June 2019, the Malacca Resilience Strategy has been successfully released as the FBNB initiative, which has been developed since August 2017. Throughout the process, key shocks and key stresses have been identified that potentially weaken the fabric of the city. By addressing both the shock and stresses, a city becomes more able to respond to adverse events and actually deliver basic function in both good time and a bad time to the population. Okay, so today actually we focus on how Malacca City Council take action to the SME to deliver a resilient economic recovery, especially when pandemic COVID-19 struck the world. Malacca has well known as a tourism-oriented city. With that factor, Malacca receives high number of tourists, up to 18.73 million tourists recorded in 2019. This was the year before COVID-19, seriously spread in year 2020. But unfortunately, the strike of COVID-19 resulting in drastic drop down to 13.68 million of tourist arrival in Malacca. Okay, refer to the GDP, Malacca GDP, services are the highest component, recorded 48.6% that contribute to Malacca economy. This includes tourism and business activity that are highly impacted by COVID-19. Okay, our recovery plan throughout the world, small and medium enterprises, SMEs, play a crucial role in addressing the impediment of poverty, inequality, job creation in rural areas. There are important sources of employment, particularly for women, low-skilled workers, and the youth. SME contribute to employment creation, wealth creation, poverty alleviation, and income generation. But however, SMEs in developing countries face numerous impediments, namely lack of finance, lack of business skills, and also lack of operating space. So the support of SMEs by the local government, private sector, and civil society should be enhanced in order to increase the contribution of SMEs to local economic development. The involvement of the all sector is also necessary in the establishment and subsistence of support for SMEs. Okay, developing small and medium enterprise had to achieve sustainable growth and a centralized team. SMEs play a vital role in the country overall production network, and they are core to the economic growth by developing country. While including informal SMEs, the percentage will be increased. Finance accession is the main constraint to SMEs growth. Without that, many SMEs are declined. So, Malacca local economy activity, SMEs and SMEs severely affected by COVID-19 pandemic. There are trader gain only about ringgit Malaysia 100 in a month. How they survive their business with some other monthly and daily commitment is our concern actually. So now, what is our initiative in order to help business, especially the SMEs, to sustain their business by provide numbers of initiatives? All right. So this slide actually under the economic stimulation package, there are 60 initiatives initiated by the state, and FBNB assists with 10 initiatives and 7 initiatives for and focus for SMEs. During the announcement of Movement Control Order, MCO, no activity is allowed to operate except for the essential services, such as health and business sector, and state government give a permission for business to freely operate within the MCO time. All right. The slide actually show how we provide the exemption for 314 trishaw puller in 2021. That cost around 7,536 ringgit, and this is because trishaw activity is really rely on tourism. Business and traders are offered with 50% premise rental reduction that involve with 1,371 tenants. It costs about 316,260, and then license is one of the basic key requirement for the business activity and needs to renew based on specific terms. So we give 50% rebate on FBNB asset, Malacca City Council asset rental will help to reduce monthly commitment for small traders and hawkers in FBNB administrative area. So next, for the service stage in initial 100% exemption for service charge until December 2021 for building owner that cost about 1.5 million. Moreover, 50% for remission for all commercial and industrial activity, and 50% rental rebate are given to them. From our point of view, all these initiatives more or less can help actually for SMEs to sustain and to be more creative and innovative in business. All right. Okay. In addition to support an economic recovery, we also provide online platform known as FBNB, Malacca City Council, My SPX, as a supporting system with contactless and cashless method. This approach helps in reduce the COVID-19 infection rate. On the other hand, during Ramadan, month of the Islamic calendar, observed by Muslims worldwide as a month of fasting, usually in Malaysia, will have Bazaar Ramadan. Okay, Bazaar Ramadan sell various food and drink for main course and dessert. We can see thousands of small traders operate during this time, and they are one of the group that impact from COVID-19. So FBNB, Malacca City Council, takes an initiative to empower economic activity during pandemic by gather all sellers and runners in one comprehensive online platform with various transactions such as food order, promotion, and delivery. So it is still used until now. So this helps actually in generation more revenue for the SMEs. Okay. Economic activity is an essential sector. However, community is one of the factors in activating an economic activity. As a supporting initiative, FBNB initiate a regular sanitation and enforcement for SOP restriction in public area, especially within Malacca City Council business compound. Also, we provide additional equipment such as thermometer, hand sanitizer, face mask, and disinfectant handle to mitigate and create a safe environment for all. And also, as an addition, this is the best time for us to create an interactive system that promotes local cultural heritage and heritage business activity in Malacca. Many initiatives have been planned and put in place, including Cerita Malacca interactive system. So we provide users with fast and efficient access to content day one. So you can access the link on this page, bit.ly/Cerita Malacca, as well as the QR code. So some features are fit on the site, such as video, GPS, navigation, street view, and publication. This will lead to better quality, knowledge, and delivery of input. Okay. As a conclusion, actually, SME sector play a significant role in Malacca City because they involve in job creation by the modern day economy. Out of the SME contribution, there is a significant role in GDP and proper money flow across the economy in notice. When the state economy is in better condition, the SMEs will flourish. If the economy is volatile, the SMEs will face a risk of going down and they survive within a small budget. So SMEs boost the country economy by affording extra revenue and employment. So as a local authority, it's a body that works closely with community and even the SMEs. So we will create an initiative that can give benefit to all city components in order to have systematic city system and resilient approach. Okay, that's all from Malacca City Council. Thank you.
Zuhaila, thank you so much.
Hi, thank you.
For this comprehensive overview. I would like to give the floor to Arti from Semarang, Indonesia, to talk about the assessment that she's currently doing around the resilience of the batik sector in Semarang and in general how COVID has impacted the local economy within the city. Arti, the floor is yours.
Thank you. But maybe you can share. Okay, share. Okay. Very good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share the initial findings of the Catalyzing City Resilience Solutions. Sorry. Okay. There are 4 main points in my outlines. First is batik SMEs and Semarang City Resilience. And the second is the initial findings, mainly on batik SMEs profile, and followed by risk and vulnerability and future resilient business development. Okay. Yeah, Semarang facing urbanization and development, yeah, and this cause environment pressure in Semarang, and this relate to climate change issues such as increasing average surface temperature, and also sea level rise, coastal inundation, flooding, and land subsidence. Semarang joined the 100 RC to deal with flood disasters and have 53 initiatives grouped into 6 pillars. There are competitive human resource, water and energy sustainability, new economic opportunities, disaster preparedness and disease outbreaks, integrated mobility, and transparency of public information and governance. And one of these 6 pillars, new economic opportunities, give batik, selected batik as a distinctive culture heritage of Semarang City, and the majority of batik SMEs are classified as micro businesses and more vulnerable than other SMEs, especially on the pandemic situation. And also relate to water and energy sustainability, batik has a pollution risk to water in Semarang. And this is the initial findings, will consist of SMEs profile, value chain, type of production, product market, and also network and support. There are more than 300 Semarang batik SMEs divided into 4 agglomeration batik centers. Batik in Semarang originated in East Semarang or Semarang Timur, known as Batik Education Center, because now those batiks are moved throughout the Semarang periphery, in the coastal area, known as Batik Tugu or mangrove batik, and in the south there are Batik Banyumanik, or known as synthetic batik, and also in the southwest we can find the agglomeration of batik centers as Gunung Pati batik, and known as natural batik. And all of those batik SMEs are joining Semarang batik clusters. Okay, when we talk about the profile of batik SMEs in Semarang, the interesting one is that the business actors is dominated with age group and more than 50 years, 45 into 49, and also 50 until 54 years old. And this is interesting because the business actors dominated by women, especially housewife, and they learn batik when they old, to killing the time, because the children is maybe not dependent on the family, and there are many time to learn batiks. And the education level is dominated with diploma and bachelor graduates, and also high school graduates. And the business length, the average dominated by less than 10 years, and the location is dominated in the south of Semarang in Banyumanik and Tembalang district. And more than 67% the business join on a business group we call KUB, and there are also 17% of SMEs is classified as individual business. And the business activities is dominated by production, batik production and sales, and small of them is specialized on production of batik fabric only. And when we identified the business scale, batik SM is dominated by micro businesses, yeah, more than 80%, and the business contribution, respondents refer as side income, yeah, more than 50%. This batik only contribute to them as side income. And this is the batik value chain. When we talk about pandemic, the batik process, some of them discontinued, and some of them, in order to reduce the cost of production, they subcontract the process, yeah, and specialize into the motif design and plotting this motif into cotton fabric. So this is one of their strategy to recover from the pandemic. And when we talk about the actors, some of supplier comes outside Semarang. Dominantly, the input of production comes from Solo, Jogja, and Pekalongan. And the distribution, batik fabric sell into Semarang, local market, but for the fashion product and the tailor, not only Semarang, it also include tailor from Pekalongan and Demak, because the comparative advantage of Pekalongan and Demak is higher than Semarang. And the output of this process batik in Semarang consists of hand-drawn batik, stamp batik, and in order to minimize the cost of production, they also product fail, yeah. And now the trend is respond to the need of pandemic. They also produce mask and also home decor. And the type of productions, there are three types. First is fashion products, such as clothes, bags, souvenirs, and extra. The second is batik production, as cloth or fabric. And the third is combination both between not only batik fabric, but also fashion product. And this combination is dominated until 79% produce batik fabric and also fashion product. But when we consider about the production waste, the liquid waste is higher than solid waste, and also combination of liquid and solid waste. But we concerned about the mixture of natural and synthetic dyes for coloring those batik fabrics. And we know that most of the business actors not process the waste, but immediately throw away. And some of them, it's about a small portion of the waste processed into craft, the solid waste into addressing to circular economy on zero waste. But we have some consideration more about is that not treated the liquid waste. Product market of batik Semarang dominated distribute on local markets, 73%, and it's about 13% distribute into international market through the buyer from Bali. So this is not directly distribute from Semarang, but with buyer in Bali, cooperate with Bali buyer. And the rest is distributed on regional and national markets. And when we talk about the network and support, local government agencies support to promotion and also batik cluster capacity building, such as facilitate on batik production training and also encourage the local market demand. And batik cluster itself accommodate those SMEs into forum dialogue and also promotion, and also makes some education into introduction to natural coloring and also the new technique. So this is kind of sharing learning dialogue from each other on Semarang batik SMEs. And the interesting ones is the findings that we know that since 2006, some of batik business actors in Semarang introduce new Semarang motif design and also make some training for housewives and other interest students initiated by Batik Semarang 16, Si Batik, and Salma Batik. So this effort pushed the plasma model of batik production in Semarang very. And when we talk about the inclusive batik activity, this is excluded from batik SMEs actually, because there are some special school in Semarang that also make some invention on batik ciprat or splash batik, and this dedicated to children with disabilities since 2011. And this splash batik known and replicated by other special school in Semarang and also to other region in Central Java, East Java, and Yogyakarta. And this become a signature souvenir from Semarang and done as student activity only. And when we talk about pandemic and batik SMEs, there are 34.5% discontinue their production, and 63% decrease their production. But the interesting one is there are small portion on those SMEs batik that said that their business is as usual. Yeah. But when we talk about the market demand, 70% of batik SMEs said that the loss of this market demand, especially from local governance and also the school for their uniform. Yeah. And consider the risks and vulnerabilities, the capital market dependency and product. We know that there are many things have to improve in the future because the product is lack of innovation and weak product identity, and they have a low comparative advantage compared to Solo, Kalongan, and Yogyakarta. And also the market is limited, and or the local market orientation is also depends on the support from the governance and also the other private offices. Yeah. And when we talk about the pollution, the potential pollution comes from the liquid waste, unprocessed waste, disposed of by rivers, ditches, and soil. And only 16% of those waste are well treatment in maybe the medium enterprise. Yeah. And the source of the waters, yeah, some of them use 30% artesian well, and 30% of them use local water company. And this is the existing resident strategy. Because of in order to minimize the cost of production, they decide to subcontract part of the process and make some specialization in motif designer and also in education and training the batik process. And by creating the new product and product modification, they hope to make some market extension outside Semarang area, and they use social media like WhatsApp and Instagram to communicate and promote their product. Yeah, but the using of e-commerce is very limited because they couldn't bear the continuous stock. Yeah, so sometimes they have to stop the production. And local governments also support to the further training and also cooperative funding, and also encourage the SMEs to join the business group. And by this joint business group, they can collaborate more to earning the additional capital, material supply, market network, and clusters. And this is future sustainable business development that we propose to enhance the digital ecosystem, and also utilize the batik tourism village to promote and also encourage the education and batik training, and we also want to increase the product uniqueness by maybe push some production technique and innovation, and utilize the brand story to make some signature design of batik Semarang. And we recommend to SMEs to join the business group and transform into cooperative, and also to facilitate the micro soft lending. And by promotion the rebranding and also market extension, we hope that utilizing on social media and marketplace will help to achieve the market extension wider outside Semarang. And as on the human resources, we know that from 2006, the informal training and also sharing learning dialogue in cluster, and also voluntary SMEs that share and also give some training for many housewives, and this encourage a plasma model production into Semarang very. I think this is the primary findings actually. Thank you.
Thank you, Arti. That was really fascinating. And unfortunately, we are already on time. We've passed a couple of minutes beyond that. I would like to thank you all for joining this session. I think it was great to hear both from Malacca around the specific kind of measures to support SMEs to kind of adapt to the new normal, take this deeper dive of the batik sector of Semarang. But also understanding the importance of SMEs for the local communities, but also for the global sector. So I would like to thank all our speakers. I would like to thank all of you that joined us today. Please look out for the upcoming session in a couple of weeks that will be focused specifically on migration and resilience, with a focus on Parag Khanna's book, Move. Again, thank you, Amit, Jose, Zuhaila, Arti, for today's discussion intervention. Have a great rest of the day to all of you. Bye.